What is up, everybody? My name's Andrew, and I'm here to document my entrance into the cannabis industry. I have no previous business experience in the cannabis industry. My knowledge and understanding of that industry is limited, and so I thought it might be interesting to document as I try to start a cannabis business. The pitfalls, the risks, the hardships, everything that goes along with entering a new business where you might not have the expertise necessary. I'm hoping to document that, show my experiences, and show the process. So the business idea that I have is to incrementally build a cannabis business using other businesses' licenses. Right now, it's becoming harder to get the various licenses needed to have a cannabis-based business in the state of California. So I thought it might be easier just to leverage the licenses of other companies who already have them. I've heard some figures that say it costs as much as $2 million to get a cannabis license in the state of California. I'm not saying $2 million to spend up front, but if you look at the cost of legal as well as building out the business side and having the capital requirements the state has, I think it gets up to around $2 million. So I don't know. I'm going to find out more about this as I get into this business venture. I just thought it might be fun to go through some of the details. So the goal is to build it incrementally. Another word for that is bootstrap, right? Using my own money, my own resources to slowly and within my budget and within my capabilities grow the business. So I thought I would start with flower because it has less licensing requirements and also just less work is involved. I think that the margin on flower is not as good as the rest, but I don't know. I'm guessing at this point. But that's the reason I'm going to start with flower. After flower, my goal is to move on to vape products, not the electronics, but the carts. And then the third goal is edibles, because I figure those are the most challenging of the three. This company that I'm going to build, it's going to be a marketing focused company, which means most of the people or most of the employees' time will be spent on the marketing side of things. And by marketing, I mean building relationships with dispensaries, building relationships with customers, building relationships with growers, getting all the information that it takes to get the information on the product that you're producing and get it out to all the people who need it, like the dispensaries, reviewers, and the customers. So that's sort of the overview. I mean, it's not a very complex thing. Well, it's not a complex idea, but obviously the work that's going to go into it is going to be fairly complex because this is a heavily regulated area. It's the industry is technically less than 2 years old, and so there's just a whole lot of unknowns right now, at least on my side. I know there's people out there who have all the answers, but I haven't met them yet. So the reason I'm creating these videos, this series of videos to document my experiences, it's number one, it's documentation. I just think it's interesting. I love documentary films. I love the concept of documenting. So I thought it might be interesting to sort of snapshot this period of time in the beginning of the rollback and prohibition of cannabis in the United States. The second reason is to help others. I think there are a lot of people who are looking to build a cannabis business, and I think if I can go through the process and document it and give enough information in these videos, that it might help someone else. The next reason is because I think it'll be fun. I know it's kind of weird that some people think it's fun to talk into a camera and tell about the details of their day, but it sounds like a lot of fun to me, in part because I think there's accountability there. And, you know, I get a lot of crazy ideas, and this is a great way to hold myself accountable and for other people to do the same. And the last reason that I'm making these videos, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but the last one I can think of is the transparency. Now that cannabis is legalized, I feel that there's a market demand for more honesty and transparency in the production of cannabis products, and I'm hoping to begin that transparency by making these videos to talk about my process and what I'm working on and how I'm building the company. Up until the Prop 64 was passed, there was medicinal marijuana. There were legal dispensaries for that, but outside of the legal industry, there was a lot of shadiness going on, and there still is. If you look at the exotic carts, and if you look at the black market that's operating right now in California, I think that it shows that there's really two distinct markets. One is the legit, and one is the black market. And I don't see the there's definitely overlap of the customers of those two markets, but I see the reason for their existence primarily as a marketing. So, for example, it's not that easy to promote a black market dispensary or a pop-up shop. It's really not that easy because you can't buy Google ads, you can't buy Facebook ads. Weed Maps is shutting down their promotion of it, and so it's word of mouth. It's you're really limited in the way that you can promote those, and so the fact that they exist just shows that there's huge demand for cannabis in the state of California, but also that not everybody's interested in the high-end products, the organic, verified, tested, right? People are willing to pay half as much to forego the safety of that supply chain. So I think that's going to change over time. I think it's a artifact of the black market that's existed for cannabis for almost 100 years, and I think it will change over time, especially if taxes on cannabis are brought into a more reasonable percentage. Because right now it's some people are estimating that it's as much as a 200% tax. If you look at all the licensing requirements along the supply chain and all of the other regulatory costs, a flower that may cost, $10 to produce is being sold for $30, right? And that's a 200% markup. So I think there's room for improvement there, and I think that eventually the state is going to have to deregulate a little bit in order to better compete with the black market. But that's so far ahead that it's not going to happen for a while. Even though they tried to pass a law in California to temporarily reduce taxes, it didn't pass. So there's just there's little demand for it on the policy side. All right, so the goals of this project, besides as I outlined for the business and besides as I outlined for these videos, are for me to research and better understand the cannabis market. I'm going to be putting together a business plan, and then I'll be executing. So it's research, create a plan, and then execute. And then along every step along the way, it's analysis. So I'll be going back and looking at how I did and how I did it and what I did and whether or not it was successful. And hopefully that analysis will come through on this channel, because I think it's great to hear experience, but if you don't interpret those experiences, then it's not as helpful. The goal of creating a bootstrapped or incremental business is to leverage other people's licenses. Currently, there are 3 types of licenses. The first is for manufacturing. The second is for cultivation. And the third, it's not a type of license, but it's through the BCC, the Bureau of Cannabis Control in the state of California. And it has 5 different... it licenses 5 different types of businesses: testing, labs, distributors, transport, dispensaries, and micro businesses. So those are all the licenses that I'm trying to avoid by creating this incremental business. So the first reason is to avoid licensing. The second reason is to avoid that $2 million capital requirement that I haven't documented completely yet. I just heard about it secondhand, but I'm hoping to better understand those capital requirements before I create the business plan, obviously. But my guess is that I'm not going to be able to meet that $2 million requirement, so I'm going to have to find alternate ways of funding this. And by building it small and incrementally, I can avoid the need for larger capital outlays up front. Also, I can avoid the need for investors and the legal costs of applying for all those licenses, consulting and legal costs. So that's everything. I hope that you enjoy this series of videos. I'll be creating different channels and different playlists along the way. Once I get a website, it'll probably be right there. I don't know. I don't have a website yet, but maybe by the time I finish this video, I will. But anyway, I hope you enjoy the process, and I hope you tag along for this adventure. Feel free to drop a comment below if you have any questions or tips for doing what I'm doing better. And I hope to create something interesting, worthwhile, and maybe even profitable. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you soon.